morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm this morning hosting this press conference at the request of the Premier and the Leader of the Opposition to address the truly shocking increase in violent crime that we have seen over the last few weeks in Anguilla, and the tragic loss of life, young lives full of potential. To those who've been bereaved, injured, or affected in any other way by these events, our hearts go out to you. I'll turn in a minute to the Chief of Police, who will provide an update on where we are with the investigations and the work that the police are doing, and then to the Premier and to the Leader of the Opposition to say some words from their perspectives. I think the fact that your democratically elected representatives are all here today, unified, speaks volumes to the unity of purpose that we all need to see to tackle this gun violence. Not only the symptoms, but the causes. It was only a few weeks ago that we were all standing in happier times at the Ronald Webster Park to celebrate the unity in Anguilla in 1967, when Anguillians came together to determine their future. We need that sort of unity today to tackle these really serious events. But this is not just about words, it is about actions. I'll just mention a couple of the things that we're doing. The Police Commissioner no doubt will mention many more, as will our other speakers. But we are taking steps to protect our borders. After this conference today, I'm going down to Blowing Point to look at the new scanner that is now there to scan incoming bags, to also see the new walk-through scanners that will scan individuals arriving in Anguilla and leaving Anguilla. We're protecting our streets through the recruitment of an additional 20 RAPF police officers, but also the presence of UK armed police officers and investigators. I know there have been rumours that the UK police have left. They most certainly have not, and you can expect to see them very visibly out on the street in the coming weeks. We've also had support from outside Anguilla. The National Crime Agency in the UK, which is tasked with tackling organised crime, has been here this week with the RAPF, looking at whether there's anything further we can do to support the investigations. This is a time when we all need to support our police. I know it's difficult and people have fears. The House of Assembly has recently passed legislation, though, to support those who are willing to come forward to give evidence. There are special measures now available in our courts to enable people to give evidence from behind a screen, via video link and other protections. So I would again always urge people who know information to use the confidential hotline and support our police. Finally, before handing over to the Commissioner, I do want to pay tribute to our emergency services, and in particular to the Royal Anguilla Police Force. They are the ones that are at the front line of tackling this violence. They go to the scenes, very distressing scenes often. They are working tirelessly through the night to keep us all safe. They do deserve our support. They deserve our courage in doing whatever we can to support them. Without further ado, I'll hand over to the Commissioner to give us an update.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to anyone online. So between the 21st of June and today's date, there have been 5 shooting incidents across the island, which have resulted in 4 fatalities, very sadly. What I will say is that between those dates, the RAPF have arrested 6 individuals in respect of gun-related incidents, and one of those still remains in custody, being questioned in relation to possession of firearms. As the Governor has said, there has been an uplift in the RAPF. The English police officers are still here. They are still patrolling the streets, and as early as last night, I got a video taken by someone where they were at the scene along with their colleagues in the tactical unit executing a search warrant and arrest. Thank you, Governor, for your comments. It has been an extremely trying time in the last 4 weeks for the RAPF. We are committed to working with the community, with the government, with the Governor's office, with people across other law enforcement agencies in tackling the issue of gun crime on this island. I won't say any more at this stage. I'm sure there will be questions which will come out and that will allow me to allude to a number of other issues of interest. So thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Commissioner, and good morning. I too would like to share how extremely concerned we are about this increase in gun crime and violence. I want to wish condolences to the families of those who have lost loved ones and to those who are injured. Our thoughts and prayers are with them for speedy recoveries. I want to thank our medical staff, emergency personnel for the work that they are doing. Certainly we'd hope that we would not have to be dealing with this type of injuries and crimes, but this is where we're at. What has the government done so far? You've heard from Her Excellency and from the Commissioner as to some of the efforts that have been put in. This administration has committed significant resources to combating this gun crime and violence. There was the Gun Crime and Violence Special Committee that was chaired by the Parliamentary Secretary Merrick Richardson in the House of Assembly, and there were many recommendations from that, which Her Excellency did respond and is working through the response to those recommendations. We had the gun amnesty, increased sentencing for possession of guns, ammunition. You heard about the UK armed officers, the increased number of police to the RAPF, increased number of police vehicles, CCTV budgeted for control and monitoring center, increased security at schools, including the primary school. So this has all required a lot of financial and personnel resources that could have been used elsewhere, but there is a commitment from this administration. I certainly know from the UK government, the Governor and Governor's office, and the Commissioner and the Royal Anguilla Police Force to curb this gun violence, to curb this scourge that we are now dealing with. I want to thank the members of the public, though, who have reached out to me with ideas and suggestions, church groups and civic groups, for some of the activities they are doing to end this now. Some providing counseling especially for young people. Some of the suggestions made, will provide solutions to help. Again, want to thank the Commissioner of Police, Royal Anguilla Police Force, the Governor, the Governor's office, and as said, the UK officers, the UK government for the commitment, and Government of Anguilla for putting all efforts to secure our people. I want to appeal to all Anguillians to do our part. If you see something, say something. They are confidential emails, hotlines to report. Young people, especially our young men, I want to appeal to you to think before you act. We cannot afford to harm each other and lose our young men. Anguilla will be worse off with this loss of potential. Reach out if you need help. Talk to someone. I think it just requires an all-hands-on-deck approach, and as you see, the elected members are united in this effort to decrease the scourge of gun crime and violence, which has taken over our land. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier. I'll turn to the Leader of the Opposition to say a few words.
Thank you and good morning to everyone. Let me start off by extending deepest condolences to those family, friends, and loved ones who would have lost someone at the hands of gun violence in recent times. And we also wish a speedy recovery for those persons who have been injured. I would like to thank the Governor and the Premier for making this joint press conference possible. I was spoken with the Premier on Monday, and we would have met as a body on Tuesday. And we are here today, Thursday, at this joint press conference. And what it says in terms of the quick turnaround time is that this is an issue of critical national importance. And when we met on Tuesday, the members of opposition had the opportunity to listen and hear the existing plans of government and what is contemplated for the future, but also had the opportunity to make suggestions and recommendations as to how we can move forward. I have said before that the issue of gun violence in our country is not a political issue. It is a national issue. And so that is why this joint press conference today is so important, because it underscores the fact that every elected representative, irrespective as to party affiliation, is united in our efforts to eradicate gun violence in our country. The members of opposition have supported the Gun Violence Committee in the House of Assembly and have supported the recommendations. We also would have supported the various pieces of legislation and amendments to existing laws, which will have been passed in the House, addressing the issues of gun crime and violence. And we are also supportive of the plans that the government has in terms of being able to move forward and addressing this issue. And I want to thank the Governor's Office, the members of the Royal Anguilla Police Force, and in particular the Commissioner of Police, for their hard work in working along with the government to ensure that these measures are being implemented. But we must do more. There are a number of issues in our country that we also have to address, social issues. Issues such as emerging antisocial behavior, challenging economic times, and limited opportunities for productive and positive social engagement, guns, drugs, and gangs in our country. And each of us has a role to play in addressing these social issues if we are to change the trajectory of our island. And I urge parents, family members, leaders in our community, including the church, and every single one of us who live here, who sleep here, who work here in Anguilla, to stand up and be a part of the solution. It is not enough to stand by, to sit by, and to observe while the government, the elected representatives, the governor's office, the police play their role in ensuring that our country is safe and secure. You too, as citizens of our country, have a role to play. We must do everything that we can in our power to protect our children, to stop the taking of young lives at the hands of guns, and in particular, the lives of our young men, because our young men and our young women have a critical role to play in nation building. And so I ask each one of us to tap into that resilience, that spirit of resilience that we're known for, and to take a stand and to do our part in our own communities, in our own homes, to address this issue as a nation and as a united people. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I will open the floor to questions now. If you could be clear who you're directing your question to, whether to the Premier, the Leader of the Opposition, the Chief of Police, or myself, that would be really helpful.
Thank you very much, Madam Governor. I'm Elkin Richardson, Independent. I want to ask you, Madam Governor, you mentioned about securing our borders. We have been hearing for quite some time that our borders are very porous. My question to you, Madam, what is being done as relates to the marine aspect of Anguilla?
Thanks for the question. You're right. Protecting our borders is a key issue, not least because of the importation of guns, which is a particular problem in Anguilla. There are a number of issues. There are a number of matters that are being taken forward. I mentioned some of those at the port. I think you're alluding to boats and marine presence on the water. We're hopeful that in the coming week or so, the police boat will be back out on the water. There are some urgent repairs that were needed to it. Those are very much in progress. So you should see the marine boat being back out on the water shortly. We cooperate extremely closely with our colleagues in Saint Martin, in St Martin. Their boats work with our police force. They often go on joint exercises or operations. So that's part of it. There may well be other boats in the chain that we may be able to make other announcements in due course. But I don't know if the Commission would like to add anything further to that.
Thank you, Governor. Yes, I expect the boat to be back in the water next week, and I have staff identified to run that full time, and I've been able to do that because we've been able to recruit some additional staff during the year. So I have a full-time unit ready to be established and get the boat back in the water next week.
Throughout the members of the public, they are asking, when will Anguilla get a state-of-the-art marine boat similar to what is being given to Montserrat and other British overseas territories?
I suppose I need to be careful in what I say here. Elkin, there are things which are, as the Governor said, in the pipeline, and as we like to say, I would rather under-promise and over-deliver than the other way around. The boat that we have at the moment is sufficient for what we need, but the ability to get that upgraded.
I don't know who I'm going to direct this one to, but there is out there that there are foreign elements, maybe you, Commissioner, foreign elements that may very well be assisting or involved in some of these crimes. Could you speak to that, sir?
The only evidence that I can say is that on the 11th of August last year, with the murder at the end of Cornwall, there was a Trinidadian who was responsible for that. In relation to other gun-related incidents, no.
My last question. In order to solve any problem, we must get to the root cause. Has the root cause been identified?
So that might be one for the politicians to
Okay, politicians, whoever wishes. The root cause is very important to identify the root cause. Then from there we'll be able to at least go a long way in solving our problems.
Well, that is a very complex question, because what is the root cause? We know that it is mostly young men who are committing these crimes, from the looks and sounds of it. what is causing our young men to feel that they need to choose this way to deal with conflicts. We then have to go back to society, to how we can, make sure that our young men don't feel disenfranchised, where they feel that they belong and that they have ownership or take ownership. And so those are all issues that I think have to be dealt with, in the homes and the schools and the churches. We need to get more civic organizations back up, youth clubs. Certainly we need to have good training of our teachers and those who are responsible. But I think it's going to take an all society approach. Government, elected leaders, church leaders, and others who have to make sure that we identify the problems early and deal with them. And as I said in my opening, persons have been coming forward with suggestions, and I think some of them are really good suggestions of how we engage our young people early and allow them to not only deal with situations and conflict resolution, but we also need to make sure that if they have mental issues, that those have to be identified and treated. We do have a deficit in terms of mental health here in Anguilla, because we've been trying to get a psychiatrist for over 3 years and haven't been able to recruit one. We do have one that works virtually, but I think somebody needs to be resident in Anguilla to help. The counselors are doing what they can, but certainly these are all issues that are there. But to put the finger and say this is the root cause, you can't just say it's unemployment. You can't say that it is because their parents and grandparents are now working 2 and 3 jobs. Why? I mean, these are all contributing factors. But I must say that, the efforts that have been put in by this and other administrations to make sure that there is employment, that the economy is going the right direction, I think that would say that we are doing what is necessary that we can do to help. We certainly need, all of society to pitch in also to make sure that we can curb this spate of gun violence.
On our part, the members of the Anguilla United Front have been meeting with key stakeholders in our community to understand some of the contributing factors. And some of those factors include trauma that these young people are facing, anger, there may be mental health issues, learning disabilities, because in certain cases, some of our 15 and 16-year-olds who have been identified may not be able to read. Lack of opportunities, the lack of wide-ranging sports opportunities for our children to get involved in, and a number of other factors. But those were some of the consistent factors that came up time and time again when speaking on the issue. And so the way in which we have to address this as a country is wholesale. It is not necessarily just CCTV cameras. It is not just increasing penalties for firearm offenses. It is not just or even building a bigger jail if it comes down to that. It's not just that alone. There are the social issues that we have to grapple with. These are issues that did not crop up today, they did not arise today, and they're not going to be resolved immediately. But we have to recognize what they are, that they are in existence. And if we are to change where we are heading, then we have to deal with those social issues. And so it's everything coming together. And so that is why I continue to make the point that it is the community, each of us as individuals, not just one sector, one area, that is going to make the difference. And we have to do so now. We can't wait until tomorrow or the next day to be able to put these things in place.
I don't know who would answer this question, but in reference to those persons who have been charged, associated with, at what percentage you would say that they have been employed?
That's for the Commissioner. I don't know if you have those sorts of statistics.
I couldn't answer that just right now, Lloyd. I would have to go away and have a look. What I can say is I know that some aren't employed, some are definitely employed, but what the breakdown will be, I just don't know. I'd have to go away and look at that.
James Harrigan from the Anguilla newspaper. We focus on the causes right now, and we know that there's a trend, a current trend, and this has been the norm for such a long time now, that there's an East against West scenario, where, as the Deputy Commissioner said last Monday in the press conference, that there's a kind of tit-for-tat trend. My question is this: what has government considered to be the antidote or to be the solution to this East against West problem? I mean, we have young men who can't go from West End to East End because they are fearful, and young men likewise who can't go from East End to West End because they are fearful. They fear for their lives. So what can be done, or what can government do? And in extension, I want to say this. This is my view particular. In the next few months, we'll have elections, and there would be some campaigning going on around the island by different parties. Why not, at this juncture, when there's such a serious national crisis as gun violence, why not band together and have a campaign, a government campaign, against the East and West situation?
Well, thank you, James, for the question. I don't know the extent of what you describe as an East-West rivalry. I think Anguilla is very small, and so I would hope that that doesn't exist. I know that is always brought up. If they're gangs, yes, I would say they are, going based on what I've been informed. But what can be done and is being done is to have economic activity throughout the island, not just as used to be, where down in West End, the breadbasket of the country, we now have different projects are proposed and are being done on other parts of the island. So if persons wanted to work and have the skills and couldn't go to one area or the next because of rivalries, there are projects in the areas that they live. And that's what I think is important, that we have, economic activity all over the island now. And there are other activities planned. We are removing the jet ski prohibition, so Anguillians will be able to, own jet ski business. And those sites are proposed in different areas. So these are, I think, are being mitigated for. In terms of where these rivalries come from, if they do exist to that extent, I think we need to find out what was the cause of that and how we can try to bring them back together. I think sporting activities is one of the areas where we used to be able to have those rivalries, but we took out our differences in sports. Cricket in different areas, one village against the next, basketball, football. And so I think these are areas that can be developed. I think our communities need to come together and to band together. We do have community leaders that should be able to find out what the main issues are with our constituents and with our young people, and see how we can, help them with conflict resolution, how to help them to deal with the issues that they may have encountered, where they realize that it's really not that bad that you have to pull a gun and take out somebody. So these are the things that we have to deal with, and we are appealing to the different churches and civic groups, and we are getting good response.
Let me also let the Leader of Opposition have an opportunity if she wants to add
Yes.
anything.
Thank you. There's been a number of suggestions that will come forward as well, and one of them does include the enhancement of social clubs, of sporting activities where, and we start from in primary school, where you have a number of children from different areas that would be part of that sporting activity, part of a club. And so these children, as they form their relationships, they go into high school, etc., these relationships continue to exist, and so it's not necessarily you're from one side of the island versus another side of the island. But there does exist that, and we find that there are a number of young persons that may be angry, frustrated, because on 32 square miles, you may be only limited to a quarter of that size of the island, meaning it's difficult to even work and go on to a different part of the island and be subjected to some sort of incident that could result in harm or death. And so you find that that has seeped into our culture, where some young persons are unable to take up employment because of where that employment may be. We have to deal with that situation. We have to move to a point where you ought to be able to be safe as a young person traveling on any part of the island, or any individual, and not be in fear of safety and health situations.
You have rightly said, Mrs. Richardson Hodge, that we have to deal with it. But the pertinent question is how? What method? Is there any defined method or any precise measure that can be taken against such a trait?
Yeah, that's a discussion that we are actually looking at right now, because it's more, you have to go further and say, you're looking at it, and you have to come up with ideas and suggestions as to how to address it. And so that's something that we are actively looking at, because it's not something that's sustainable for us as a small island.
I want to ask my next question to Commissioner of Police. In terms of punitive measures against perpetrators, and one is in prison, what measure of punishment would you use? If that's a question that
It's not really a question for me. The job of the RAPF, and I remember having this conversation, this conversation being had with me as a young sergeant who was frustrated by a sentence that had been issued to a case I was dealing with. And I had a very wise chief inspector, and she sat me down and said, look, the job of the police is to gather the best evidence, to prepare the best report, and to then submit that to the prosecuting authorities. It's then for the prosecuting authorities to sift that evidence and decide that if beyond, a reasonable doubt when it comes to court, there is enough to convict that individual. And then it's up to the judiciary, if convicted, as to what sentence is passed on that. So it's not for me as the commissioner to talk about punishment. I always struggle with that a bit, because yes, if you go to jail, is it a punishment? Yes, it is, because your liberty is taken away. But that's not a matter for me. A matter for me is to make sure that I gather the best evidence that actually allows the other parts of the criminal justice system to make their decision.
I think my question would be better asked if I ask if there are certain levels of punishment that are meted out to people who commit quote-unquote greater crimes than other people, like people who murder. Or do they receive the same penalty as a person who in prison? Now this is in prison, because they are all in prison, But would you receive a different penalty as a person who just maybe steals or
Well, the penalty would be an increased time in prison for them to match the seriousness of the offence. Yes, the time that they're going to get.
To the Commissioner, what percentage within the last year of offences in terms of percentage have been convicted?
And sorry, say it again, Lloyd, please.
And last year, in terms of persons being charged, what percentage have been their conviction?
For all crime or for what
Gun
particular?
crime.
Again, I'm going to have to go away and get those statistics for you, because normally it's a case of it normally will take potentially more than 12 months, but I can think of a recent individual who within the last 13 months was arrested for the possession of 2 weapons. That individual is now serving 8 years imprisonment.
In reference to the station at Sanderground, is it manned 24/7?
It's not currently manned 24/7, no.
Okay.
I just want.
Check that, sorry, you haven't had a chance really to ask any questions. I just wanted to give you an opportunity before we... Okay.
I just want to follow up on a question asked by Mr. Harrigan. I've heard that at Her Majesty's Prison, depending on what part of the island you're from and you're convicted, there's a separation where the folks in the east, there's a wing for them, and the folks in the west, there's a wing for them. So if this is a place where we're supposed to send our offenders for correctional measures and there's still this separation, then we have a problem.
As I have responsibility for prisons, I'll pick up that question. There's certainly not a policy in the prison to simply separate people by which part of the island they come from. The superintendent within the prison has a responsibility to keep prisoners safe and secure. So if there's an incident within a prison, then if one prisoner, for example, assaults another prisoner, then that prisoner who commits the assault will be dealt with appropriately and separated from others. And anyone who's believed to be at risk will also be put in a part of the prison where they can be held safely. So it may be that prisoners are separated on individual cases based on incidents that have happened or intelligence that particular prisoners may be at risk. But there's certainly no general policy to start dividing prisoners according to where they live.
Thank you.
Good morning. I realize based on the Gun Select Committee report, there were 42 incidents reported last year and 5 murders, and so far we are reporting at least 4 right now. I only shudder to think what might occur at the end of the year. Commissioner, could you give us some more information, if possible, into any of the latest development of any of the investigations? I know you mentioned 6 arrests so far, 1 in custody. Anything else you can tell us?
What I can say is there were 3 vehicles which were stolen to facilitate the attacks. 2 of those vehicles have been recovered. The 1 vehicle which we have not recovered yet is a silver Nissan Liberty, which is P for Papa, F for Foxtrot 291. It was used in the 21st of June shooting at the Lanson Bowl and the 30th of June shooting at Backstreet. We're very keen to get that vehicle. There are clearly people on the island know where it is. So if you know where it is, please either contact us directly at the RAPF or use the confidential 911.gov website to tell us where that is. That is key. We are also looking at a link between weapons used and we believe that a weapon has been linked to 2 of the incidents so far.
We heard reports about a gun seizure, drug seizure yesterday. What can you tell us? Is that true?
in relation to a gun or drug seizure?
Yes, located on the western side of the island yesterday. Is that true?
No, that is not true.
Okay, so we reported 4 fatalities, but in actual fact 5. 1 died at the hands of the police. We understand, based on what you all publish on Facebook, investigators from BVI should be on island.
No, they are coming to the island to review the investigation. They should be here within the next week to 10 days. I'm just signing that off with the Commissioner in BVI.
Yesterday, the former Commissioner of Police, Mr. Rudolph Proctor, was on air, and he spoke about his experience at a time when he was the commissioner, and he said whenever there were incidents, you could always feel where the next retaliation is going to come from, but you just don't know when. Are you feeling that that breeze or retaliation in terms of where it may come from?
That's a very difficult question. Tensions are clearly very high on the island in certain parts. Things, as I would have called it back home, are running really hot. We will be doing all we can to take the temperature out of that. I think the Premier has already alluded to, this is an all-island response to what is going on. I, as the Commissioner, absolutely have my part to play. The key to this is the public on the island and how they engage in preventing incidents of this nature. Where we have information to suggest that an individual is likely to carry out an attack, I will ensure that that's acted on. Where we have information to suggest that there are weapons stored that are likely to be a danger on this island, I will have that searched. But people on this island, and it has already been said here this morning, if you see something, you need to say something. Because if you don't, it may be just too late. There are ways of doing it that will not identify you as an individual, that will not put you at risk. And I am back to the confidential website. It's very easy to access. I don't know what your IP number is. I don't even need your name. I don't need your address. I don't need a contact number. I just need the information to allow me and the staff to sift it, grade it, and then work on it.
Is the information coming in fast enough via the website?
No.
I know someone recently recommended that perhaps the police should look to have an attachment in terms of if persons who want to upload photos. Not everybody might want to write, but if you can easily take a picture and upload it to the confidential website. That was recommended.
There is something that we're looking at the moment, which will probably be like a WhatsApp number that you can upload that to. I understand why that might not be attractive to people, potentially if it's going to leave a telephone trace, but we are currently working on that at the moment.
You talk about support. We have the ex-police social club. Have you relied on their expertise? You have a number of officers within that organization. Perhaps have you looked at even signing an MOU with that organization in terms of getting some information and extra help?
I haven't, and that's a very good suggestion and one I'll take away after this.
The report from the Gun Select Committee spoke about the coastal radar system. Is that something that will be established here or installed in our waters?
So at the moment, the UK has installed something in TCI. They were the first territory to test this new system. We are having conversations with the Joint Maritime Security Organisation in the UK about Anguilla using that. So that is something that's still under discussion, but we're very much pushing for that from this office to see that arrive in Anguilla, because it will be useful. What it will also do is it will feed into the new control centre, the new 911 control centre that you will have heard about previously, which is going to be this new centre based at the NEOC, which will be capable of receiving not only 911 calls on fire, police and ambulance, but potentially if we get this new radar system, it will then be able to pick up that sort of information. At the moment, we don't really have a very fast way of responding, or as fast a way as we would like to respond. So it's part of a number of strands of long-term development that will really see us improve the infrastructure for responding not only to crime but other emergency situations.
In light of the present situation, do we have enough paramedics, EMTs on board?
Yes, currently, and certainly we have, the new director of the A&E has assured me that during this time they have beefed up the number of persons who are available in A&E for working, and also going through Carnival, they have plans to increase those numbers.
In terms of the social support area for our children, I also see that the UK supports violence reduction coordinator. Is that person coming on island?
So the advert is currently out to recruit a criminal justice and violence reduction coordinator. So we hope that there will be an appointment fairly soon. I'm talking to colleagues within the government of Anguilla about how that will fit in with the broader work that I know is being done to look at working with troubled families and to support a cross-government, cross-society approach. So as you may know, the government of Anguilla has recently appointed a new social worker who will be focusing particularly on troubled families. We have Hyacinth Bradley and all the work that she does. And so this UK-funded post will be part of that wider work to support our young people and to make sure that we're doing everything we can to address some of the social problems that you've heard from both the Premier and the Leader of the Opposition.
Premier, we know this afternoon we have the blessing of the Lansing Cultural Center, and we also have the Gospel Explosion and the Peace Rally. Is there anything planned, especially between you and the Leader of the Opposition this afternoon in terms of signal or gesture of peace?
Nothing specific, but I do hope that the Leader of the Opposition and the opposition members will come to the blessing of the Lansing Cultural Center. I think this, having the blessing and then the gospel extravaganza does show that we are trying to get the community, get the whole island, involved in this peace rally, because we feel this is important moving forward. So certainly, looking forward to that. We have enhanced security there for the opening today, and we also, we all want to come together and realize that we're all in this together, and that's the message I want to send. And certainly, there will be other events going forward of unity and showing that our concerns and wanting to get the society and community involved. But again, thanks for bringing up about the blessing of the new Lansing Cultural Center this afternoon at 4 o'clock.
We've seen the invitation, and members do plan to attend, members of the opposition.
Now that all the parliamentarians are in the House, I think it would be a good time for me to ask a question of you all. I guess by now you all would have known of the recent incident in St. Martin, neighboring St. Martin, where a politician was attacked, shot at last night, and his wife died. And the question is, are there anything being done, or is there anything being done to secure our politicians in terms of safety? I know there was some time when there was some question about whether the members of parliament should be armed. That was one thing that was questionable, and whether or not the minister should have security.
I think that might be for the...
You want to answer that? Or?
Absolutely, it is based on individual threat, and I know that last year we looked at the government and the opposition, and we conducted threat assessments against them. to see how that fitted out. Certainly in light of last night's tragic incident in St. Martin, if there's a wish to revisit that, we're more than happy to do that. So it is something that is kept under review, Elkin, and it's something that is, I know, very important to those who step forward to put their head above the parapet when it comes to political life. But again, thankfully on this island, people on this island seem to treat our politicians with respect. Most of the time.
Guess that's perspective. I just want to say, I know Mr. Olivier Arundel. I've met with him on several occasions. Yeah, Olivier, yes. And I met his wife on several occasions and his daughter. I was very distraught last night when I saw the videos and heard, and I just want to, wish him speedy recovery and condolences on the loss. But to just stress that, crime against any politician or anyone is unacceptable, and certainly for someone who is voicing their freedom of speech or wanting to run for office to represent people, that should not result in someone being shot at or in any way, harmed. And that violence is unacceptable, and I certainly want to appeal to the people in St. Martin who certainly can hear us. They have an election coming up. It's going to be contentious. We had former Prime Minister Sylvia Jacobs was here on one of the radio shows on Tuesday evening. That's not the way to deal with differences, political differences, ideologic differences. We need to all be able to get along, to allow the process to work. Your vote is your vote. And if you don't like someone or their ideas, vote against them. But there's no reason at all, ever. We saw what happened in the U.S. last Saturday with the Republican nominee. This is unacceptable.
If I may say that the incident that occurred in St. Martin last night was shocking, to say the least, and I wish to extend heartfelt condolences to Mr. Arundel on the loss of his loved one, his wife, as well as the injuries that he and his son, I believe, would have suffered. And on the heels of what has taken place in the U.S. as well, during those, the pending elections, it is of grave concern in terms of what we see taking place, certainly in the political arena. And it is just coincidentally that on Tuesday, during the meeting that we had, the joint meeting, members of the opposition will have raised the discussion of toning down the level of negative rhetoric in our own island and in terms of our own pending elections. And we have to be sensitive when emotions are high in our country. And there are times when emotions may lead to actions, and actions may be directed or misdirected. And so we have to be aware of that at all times and be responsible in terms of how we deal with matters, how we campaign, how we address our opponents, whether it is during campaign season or not. And so the members of the opposition, the Anguilla United Front Party, we are very sensitive to that issue. And I think last night would have brought it home in terms of the importance of looking at that.
While we are on St. Martin, I would like also to extend condolences to the family of Mr. Olivier Arundel, whose wife has died and himself was injured. I want to ask a question. While we're talking about St. Martin, I know it's customary that during campaign time in Anguilla, politicians go to St. Martin to speak a word or two to the folks over there who are related to people here, and have some kind of a boost, so to speak. Is that a plan for next elections?
We're talking about a campaign plan?
Yes, campaign plan.
I don't think that any member is going to answer a campaign plan at this point in time. We're on the heels of Carnival 50.
I think probably
And,
let's keep this conference to the topic at hand, if that's
Okay.
all right. Are there any more questions? I'm conscious that we're
Another
now
question. There's one question I
overrunning.
have. Other question I have.
Okay. Let's
In
take
terms of there was a statement made by one of the ministers lately that nothing's off the table in terms of taking off or canceling activities in case there is any upheaval of criminal incidences. Is that still in the making in terms of contingencies? If there is any political, I know she's not so well right now, but just in case there's any incidents.
Well, I will answer that and on the minister's behalf and say that, yeah, I mean, we certainly, if we get word from Commissioner of Police or the intelligence officers that there is risk, we're certainly not going to put the people of Anguilla at risk. And there's nothing that is scheduled that cannot be canceled if we feel that it's necessary.
My last question is to Commissioner. In reference to arresting someone, is it in our practice to fingerprint those individuals who have been arrested?
Yes, Lloyd, it is.
So it's common?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think that probably brings our press conference to a close. I just want to thank the Premier, the Leader of the Opposition and the Commissioner of Police, and indeed all the members of the House of Assembly who have come here together to demonstrate the unity of purpose in tackling gun crime. I want to repeat the call to all members of the public to say something if you know something, however small. Please use that confidential website. It's located, it's based in the US, it genuinely is completely confidential. Please do use it or contact a police officer that you trust, because you could be saving lives and it's a responsibility for all of us. So with those closing words, let me wish you all a peaceful day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.